In the summer of 2023, smoke from Canadian wildfires turned New York City's skyline a dystopian orange. Parents called a forensic psychiatrist in panic. Their children weren't just upset, they were paralyzed by a future that felt already lost. This is not a fringe reaction. It's eco-anxiety, a psychological response to the existential threat of climate change. Unlike traditional anxiety disorders rooted in personal threats, eco-anxiety is a collective dread, a chronic fear of planetary collapse. First recognized in academic literature in the early 2010s, it's now a growing concern for mental health professionals worldwide. A 2007 American Psychological Association report identified distress in people who hadn't directly experienced climate disasters, but were acutely aware of the looming danger. This anticipatory dread, as psychologist Dr. Thomas Doherty calls it, is a form of pre-traumatic stress disorder, a hypervigilance about an unfolding catastrophe that feels inevitable. Young people bear the heaviest burden. A 2021 study in The Lancet Planetary Health surveyed 10,000 youth across 10 countries. 59% were very or extremely worried about climate change, and 45% said it negatively affected their daily functioning. More than half felt betrayed by governments and adults. Lead author Dr. Caroline Hickman describes this as a profound loss, not just of polar bears, but of a future they were promised. This isn't teenage angst, it's a rational response to an irrational situation. These young individuals are inheriting a world they didn't create, and their anxiety is a mirror to our collective inaction. Eco-anxiety isn't a single emotion, it's a cluster of symptoms. Researchers at the University of California, Irvine identified 3 core dimensions: cognitive, emotional, and behavioral. Cognitively, it brings intrusive thoughts about climate change, making it hard to focus on anything else. Emotionally, it's chronic worry, anger, grief, and guilt, especially in high-consumption societies. Behaviorally, it leads to avoidance of climate news, social withdrawal, or compulsive activism that burns out. Importantly, a 2020 study found individuals with high eco-anxiety were 3.5 times more likely to have generalized anxiety disorder. Yet researchers caution against pathologizing it entirely. Some distress is an appropriate response to a real threat. Eco-anxiety isn't just in the mind, it rewires the body. A 2022 study from the University of Bonn measured cortisol levels in people with high eco-anxiety and found elevated baseline stress markers, comparable to caregivers of dementia patients. Even more striking, brain scans showed reduced hippocampal volume, a region critical for memory and emotional regulation. Dr. Maria Ojala explains that prolonged climate stress can reshape neural pathways, making it harder to regulate fear and maintain hope. This physiological toll means eco-anxiety is a full-body crisis, not just a mental one. Media exposure plays a controversial role. A 2023 study in Journal of Environmental Psychology found that consuming over 30 minutes of climate news daily significantly increased eco-anxiety, regardless of actual risk. This creates vicarious trauma, distress from mediated disaster coverage, but the relationship isn't simple. The same study showed that constructive news consumption, seeking solutions-oriented stories, lowered anxiety. Lead author Dr. Kate Sweeney notes the problem isn't information itself, but the narrative of inevitability. When people feel there's no way out, anxiety becomes toxic. The goal isn't to eliminate eco-anxiety, it's to transform it into adaptive action. Experts suggest focusing on what you can control, reducing personal carbon footprint, joining community efforts, and engaging with solution-focused content. Mindfulness and therapy can help manage symptoms, but collective action is key. When people channel their fear into activism or sustainable living, anxiety often decreases. As Dr. Susan Clayton writes, some distress is appropriate for a real threat. The challenge is to keep it from paralyzing us. Eco-anxiety can be a catalyst for change, not just a burden. Eco-anxiety is a mirror to our times, a rational response to an uncertain future. Understanding it is the first step toward transforming fear into hope.